Support items were amongst the most important tool for a hero. In fact, they were so important that some heroes never left the house without them. And some even preferred them over their own quirks. Those heroes were then called gadgeteers. And today, Bakugou learned this lesson on how important these tools really were. While sparring with Todoroki, he somehow managed to completely break his sweat-collecting bomb gauntlets. However, since they were custom-made for him, a quick replacement was sadly impossible. And due to new privacy and protection orders by Principal Nezu, in reply to concerns regarding the League of Villains, he would need to wait 2 months for a new pair. So instead, he bit into the sour apple and approached you and the rest of support item department one morning during summer. You were calibrating a support weapon for one of the students of 1A. He had an electricity quirk and had asked the support class to make something to focus it better. When the loud blonde entered the workshop, the hairs in your neck began to stand up.
"Hey, you pink-haired bimbo, I need repairs!"
He had rudely shouted into the room. Did he mean May? You gulped. You weren't good with people, but you were the only one at the workshop at the moment. Do you mean Hatsume? You asked meekly. Bakugou was holding his rather heavy-looking gauntlets under his arms.
"Yes, where is she?"
Why was he shouting at you like that? You whimpered and tried to make yourself smaller. You eventually said. She's right now out and... You got more quiet. She says she's working on a very important baby. He growled like a large dog, and you shivered.
"Fine, then you do it."
With 2 loud clangs, the gauntlets were thrown right in front of your feet. After you somehow managed to put the heavy pieces of metal on your workbench, you began inspecting them. They were completely busted. His sweat tank had large holes in it, and there were cracks covering its entire surface, together with marks indicating that the metal had begun to melt. Who did he fight?
"So how long will this take? An hour?"
He would not like what you were about to say. You stuttered and turned to face him. I need to make new ones. Once again he growled.
"Make new ones."
I'm not May, you began. I can't just make new ones. May is the master of functional prototypes that cannot be mass-produced, while I myself major in modifications of prototypes. You weren't sure if it was your anxiety in size. At least he wasn't interrupting your explanation. So in other words, May needs to make the gauntlets so I can calibrate them to be perfect. His eyes narrowed into tiny slits.
"No, I need them now."
God, why were you so pathetic? You needed help fast, or your anxiety would get better of you. With a quivering lip, you somehow managed to speak up. I don't work like May. I can't just, take measurements and be done with it. She needs her stuff to be experimental and weird. I want my stuff to last and be mass-produced, so... You gulp. Could I watch you train so I see what you need? He shrugged,
Fine,
was his answer. Watching Bakugou train was an experience. You two decided the best place to demonstrate his abilities, and what he was looking for, was a beautiful sandpit inside the recently rebuilt USJ. Since it was a holiday, students were allowed to use the USJ as long as there was a teacher present. Present Mike gladly agreed on overwatching you and Bakugou, but after about 10 minutes of boredly watching the two of you, he left to take a nap on a nearby bench. You were frantically scribbling in your notebook while Katsuki explained pretty much everything the gauntlets needed to do, to be, and how they should look like, while he was demonstrating his quirk and explaining to you how his abilities worked. Occasionally you interjected with suggestions how to upgrade the gauntlets. Some of your ideas he declined for some unknown reason. What was surprising, however, was how much calmer he got. He actually became sort of charming. And finally you had enough information. With a relieved sigh, you put down your notepad and sat on the ground. For just a moment you closed your eyes, imagining the beautiful gauntlets in your head, when you heard him approach.
You need to take measurements, right?
He asked. Once again you gulped. You had no problem taking girls' measurements, but guys always made you so. You stood up and pulled your measuring band out of your pockets. And he got really close to you. Bodies pressed against each other, you gently measured his muscular arms. You felt his hot breath comb over your hair. A whine made its way up your throat as you began to heavily blush. His skin was covered in sweat and sand, and his smell made your legs feel like jelly. He threw you a dirty grin, but didn't say anything. Finally, you were done. You were just about to write the measurements down when he snatched the notes out of your hand. "Hey!" you protested.
Also some really detailed images of me.
He chuckled. "These are private. I need them to make the gloves for you." He scratched over his right cheek.
I know, but why did you draw my full body?
Staring at the ground, you mumbled, "So I can get the proportions better?" You lied.
Oh, is that so?
He taunted and gave you an annoying look.
So, why is my butt so detailed then?
Your heartbeat started to increase, sweat beginning to pour down your face. Why were you shaking? Katsuki chuckled.
Wanna make out?
Why was he tormenting you like this? And why was your head moving on its own? Why were you nodding? Without another warning, his arms snaked around your figure. The shadows of his face were so close to yours that you could smell the sweet, ropey fragrance of the energy drink he had been drinking. And then his tongue was in your mouth. In all truth, you had not invited this prodigy of a tongue. Turning, you had merely wished to look at his face, expecting only that the expression of aesthetic delight you might find there. But you did not even catch a glimpse of his face. So instantaneous and urgent was that tongue, plunged like some writhing sea serpent into your gaping mouth. It was overpowering your senses. Your heart beat faster and faster. Your mind would never be the same again after this. Using his arms, he pushed you closer. And time seemed to stop as you melted into his touch. But all good things come to an end. And just as quickly as he had suggested it, he let go of you. More or less. Since your legs had completely given out. You felt so powerless and weak, yet also full of energy. He chuckled.
Wanted to do that ever since I saw you in the...
Katsuki looked into your eyes.
Sorry if I scared you.
With widened puppy eyes, you shook your head, and he gave you a seductive smile.
Make me those gloves. And if they're to my liking, I give you my number.
He pointed at his lips, his perfect, soft, pink lips.
There's more where that came from.
And here's a little bonus.
These babies are so sexy!
Shouted May as she inspected your finished work. And you rubbed the back of your head in embarrassment.
They're so light! I'm sure they could deflect bullets!
You had just finished a new version of Bakugou. Bakugou's gauntlets. You had made them out of a different material. Same strength, but less weight overall.
I wanna shoot it!
Without giving you a chance to decline, May ran off into the storage compartment. Fearing for the worst, you grabbed both gloves and ran as fast as you could outside. After all, you had worked 3 days on them. The school day was coming to an end, and most students were currently on their way to the dorms. And as luck so had it, just as you were about to fall down one of the many stairwells, 2 muscular arms caught you mid-air, and a familiar scent entered your nostrils.
Hey there,
Bakugou, with a grin, as his crimson eyes met yours.